Media.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Cruz. After almost 2 decades as a career network marketer, I realized that despite continual work on my personal and professional development, that I had hit a massive brick wall. So I took a deep and honest look at myself, top to bottom, hoping to find answers, and my search led me to one conclusion. The definitions I held of my business, of my world, of my life were the very things holding me back. If I wanted to change, if I wanted to grow beyond my current circumstances, I had to wipe the slate clean and redefine. This show is dedicated to helping you identify the belief systems, the mindsets, the very definitions that have held you back, and then help you break through those limitations to finally create the life you've been working so hard to achieve. Welcome to the ReDEFINE podcast.
Okay, happy podcast day. Happy podcast day to you. Happy first episode of 2025. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the ReDEFINE podcast. If you're brand new, of course, if you are an existing listener, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. As I mentioned in the last episode of 2024, I was going to keep going. If you go back and listen to that episode and the previous episodes before that, I communicated that it's just been a very challenging last couple of months. The end of the year, the last quarter was really tough for me circumstantially. And so there was a lot of personal questions as to whether or not I was going to continue with the show. And of course, the decision was, yes, I am going to keep going. Now, I'm going to mention, at the end of the episode, I'm going to talk about some of the changes that's going to be happening. But here I am. I'm happy to be back. Well, I'll also get to why in probably the next episode or two. But for today, I just want to kind of, not really get some things off my chest, but to communicate to you where things are, where I am, in the hopes that maybe sharing the perspective might help you. In the last episode of 2024, I did mention that just getting motivated, getting the drive to do something was very difficult, even to this day for, producing and recording this episode. It's just been tough, man. It's just been tough with everything that's been going on in life. It's been difficult to find the motivation, manufacture the drive to do stuff, right? Really, the only thing that I can get myself to do these days is knit. I find a lot of comfort and solace and calming and tranquility in knitting, and so that's pretty much been the bulk of my last 3 to 4 weeks or so. So again in that last, I keep referencing the last episode. I promise I'll talk about more than the last episode. But as I mentioned in the last episode, why I had to kind of find and remember why I should keep going, finding those reasons to keep going. And again, go and listen to that episode. It was really, it was helpful for me. And that's why, one of the those reasons that I found, and that I discussed in the last episode are why I'm here. So today, given that, in all that context of how difficult it's been, generally, I'm not a holidays kind of person. You know what I mean? Like it's not a time of year I generally get excited about. And then, tack on all the other things that's been going on. It was just like, meh, you know what I mean? Like it's been heavy, I think is a good word, to describe how the state of being that I've been in for the last handful of months, and so what I want to communicate and share with you today is, first, it's okay to not be okay, right? It's okay to not be okay. And mind you, I had a whole nother topic and a whole nother talk to share, but I'm just going off the cuff here and sharing with you what's on my heart. It's okay to not be okay, right? It's something that I've really had to accept, especially Well, one of the things that immediately after the hurricane, Hurricane Helene, or Helena, as I like to call it, as I like to pronounce it, one of my friends, my dear friends, people were reaching out to me, making sure we were okay, checking up on us, and seeing how we were doing post hurricane. I was like, yeah, totally fine. I actually felt a certain level of gratitude, a high level of gratitude that we were not really affected very much by the storm, but also there was a sense of guilt as well. And I communicated with one real good friend of mine. I was like, "Yeah, I'm really grateful that we were barely even affected. We had some trees down, but that was about it." And my friend replied to me, "Well, I know, that's awesome. I know you're okay, but it's got to be hard, right? Because you're part of that community. This is your world." And that got me, that made me realize that, yeah, okay, so it's okay to feel, bad. Even though I had so much to be grateful for, even though comparatively, so many people had it so much more worse. I mean, people lost their entire houses, their entire livelihoods, their lives in that storm. And I felt it felt almost wrong of me to feel bad in any sort of way, having gone through the storm with barely a scratch. And my friend helped me realize that, yeah, it's okay, because that was like a major catastrophe that, whether or not I was directly affected, I was a part of, being part of this community. So I think one of the things I've slowly started to accept over the subsequent months after the hurricane is that it's okay to not be okay. There's certain things that I think maybe we don't allow ourselves because, I don't know, maybe we feel like other people have it worse off, or that the validity of my own hurt is questionable compared to all the other atrocities going on in the world. And I really encourage you, if you ever find yourself invalidating your own state of being and your own human experience that you're going through, I want you to understand that it is okay to not be okay. Now, given that, what it, I would, the caveat to that saying, I would say that it's okay. It's not. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me back up. The caveat I would add is that it's not okay to stay not okay, right? One of the things that can be really, really difficult is that if you're in this kind of depressive state, or in a low state, a low frequency, a low vibration, the body just gets used to it. It gets accustomed to whatever state is enduring, and it becomes, for lack of a better word, the comfort zone, right? It becomes the norm, and breaking out of that norm then becomes, difficult. That's why people with or going through depression for prolonged periods of time sometimes find it hard to feel anything but, because that's what they know. That's what's quote unquote comfortable. That's what's familiar. Whereas like happiness and joy is so unfamiliar that you almost retract from it. So it's not okay to not stay okay. What I want you to do, if you find yourself, and this is what I've done, if you find yourself completely lack of drive, completely just almost numbed to everything that numb because of everything that's happened to you and around you, or you're numbing yourself because of everything that's happening to you and around you. One of the ways that's really helped me over the last month or so is to shift from that state of being, is to count the wins. Count the wins. While it's okay not to be okay, you really need to find mechanisms and tools to snap you out of it, as difficult as that can be. I mean, like I said, sometimes a win is just getting out of bed, and wins can range from anything from, like, feeling productive and getting stuff done, which I do talk a lot about on this show. But that's not all it is, right? It's not just productivity and output. It's getting out of bed, right? It's taking a shower. It's walking the dogs, right? The last time I went through this practice, which I should do it more often, but the last time I went through this practice, it was the last time I recorded and produced an episode on this show a few weeks back, right? Like I marked that. I marked that as a win. Things that I think, I'm maybe finding difficulty getting motivated to do, and if I do it, I count it as a win, right? I count it as a win. I count it going down the stairs and sitting somewhere else out, that's not just lying in my bed, a win. So whatever little thing that you can pat yourself on the back for, that just seems like, maybe it was so daunting and difficult and heavy to do, is a win, right? Because again, when you find yourself, especially in the deepest states of despair and depression, you just want to lie in bed and disappear, right? And getting out of bed, it's the simple act of getting out of bed and walking around and brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, taking a shower, whatever it might be, it really can be considered a win, in my book. And once you start getting into this practice of counting your wins and looking at the things that are things that you can be grateful for in that moment or for that day, you can really start shifting the mindset out of that depressive state, and it starts to change your perception, right? I mean, that's the whole thing about shifting your mindset, and doing this kind of work. When you actively shift your mindset and the things that you're thinking about, it starts to shift your perception as well, and you start to kind of feel better. That heaviness that you may be feeling starts to kind of, very slowly, very gradually, depending on how heavy the things have been for you, it slowly starts to kind of lighten and lighten and lighten as you go. But it is a practice, and it is not easy to do, especially on those hardest days. So I don't know, hopefully this helps, man. Count the wins. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay. And to get you out of that, count the wins, no matter how big, no matter how small. Now, the last thing I do want to say is I am not a doctor. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist nor a psychologist. This is just stuff that I've learned over the years, stuff that I practice over the years, from this stuff that I've just kind of picked up, and from books that I've read, and people that I've learned from, as well as from my things that have worked for me, from my own experience, right? And on this journey of introspection, self-exploration, and growth. All right. So if you are in a space where you're feeling, well, I just encourage you to seek professional help, right? I more and more, I think it's become more acceptable, not more acceptable even, because who cares what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, but I think it's become more common practice, and certainly available, to get help, to get professional help, therapy, whatever that form of that professional help, whatever form it comes in. Acupuncture, whatever, chiropractic, therapy, talk therapy, psychiatry, whatever it might be, right? Clinical psychiatry, anything. I think, and I'll talk more about this in the next episode, but I think we live in a world that can really, really, if we're not working towards counteracting it and counterbalancing things, the world and circumstances and everything that's going on can really start to beat us down, right? And make us feel well, it can drive things like depression and anxiety and despair, right? So, that's a big part of my work, and it wasn't necessarily the original purpose of this podcast, but it is part of the purposes of this podcast, and so that's why I mention it. Hopefully, the stuff that we talk about here helps, but I do encourage you, if you are in a really, really difficult state of being, then seek professional help. Seek professional help, because I am not a doctor. I am not a professional therapist or a licensed therapist. This is just for educational purposes only. I got to throw that out there. Sorry. Now, as far as this show, I am I probably should have done this at the beginning. A little housekeeping. I will be cutting back to one episode a week. I know, I'm sorry. For now, it's going to stay on Tuesdays. The main reason is, again, I'm easing my way back into doing this. And also, I'm easing my way back into picking up again or reviving Path of the Jedi. So I'll actually have two episodes a week, but it'll be two different podcasts, right? ReDEFINE podcast, and which is on Tuesdays every week, and Path of the Jedi, which will be every Wednesday. So if you're not already subscribed to either of these shows, please subscribe. Path of the Jedi is personal development meets Star Wars. ReDEFINE is all about helping you redefine the world around you, your life, so that you can create the life of your dreams, and yourself, whatever it might be, right? Like help redefining things so that it can serve your purposes. And then, well, that's really all. These episodes will probably be longer, since I am going only once a week. But they're going to go as long or as short as they're going to go, depending on what I'm talking about. Next week, I will cover what I was going to cover today, and that is my first piece of advice for 2025, which is no longer the first piece of advice, but it'll be the second piece of advice, and I'm actually going to be talking about less screen time. So that's on the menu for next Tuesday. So make sure to tune in again. Follow the show if you're not already following the show. Share this episode if you think it'll help. If you know somebody you think it'll help, or you think it'll provide value to somebody in your life, I'd really appreciate it. It would help us out. And let's get the word out, right? Let's get the word out in 2025 about the ReDEFINE podcast. So thanks for tuning in. It's been great hanging out with you here today. Again, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next week with a fresh new one. So until then, be well, be safe. See you in the next episode.